The chamber doors slammed shut behind me before I even reached the podium, and every single delegate in that room was already on their feet, shouting over each other in 6 different languages that the translators could barely keep up with. I am Daniel Hart, ambassador of the Soul Compact, and I had exactly 90 seconds to stop a room full of furious aliens from voting to freeze every human colony in known space. Councillor Vren of the Ashari Union did not wait for silence. He pointed a long gray finger at me, and his voice cracked through the chamber like a whip. "You have 500,000 dreadnoughts hidden behind your border," he said. "Explain that number before this council decides your species is a threat to every world in this galaxy." I felt my pulse hammering in my ears, but I kept my face still. Losing composure now meant losing everything. "That number is correct," I said, "and I am not here to deny it. I am here to tell you why it exists, and why every one of you should be glad it does." The room exploded again. Councillor Ivy Marsh of the Ferret Assembly stood so fast her chair clattered backward. "Glad," she snapped. "You built a fleet larger than the combined navies of this entire council. In secret. And you expect gratitude?" I stepped closer to the edge of the platform so every delegate could see my face clearly. 3 years ago, a council survey group vanished near the outer rim, I said. 9 ships, gone in a single night. No wreckage, no signal, no warning. This council debated it for 2 weeks, and then buried the report, because nobody had an answer. The chamber went quiet in a way that felt heavier than the shouting. "We did not bury it," I continued. "We went home and we built, not to threaten anyone in this room, but because something out there erased 9 advanced ships without leaving a single trace, and none of you had the ability to respond if it came back." Councillor Vren's jaw tightened. "That does not give you the right to build an army capable of ending civilizations," he said. "It is not an army meant for this council," I said. "It never was. Every one of those dreadnoughts sits powered down along our outer frontier, watching a border none of you were willing to watch with us." A younger delegate near the back, a Corvi elder named Selin, rose slowly from her seat. Her voice was quiet, but the whole chamber leaned in to hear it. "Ambassador Hart," she said, "if this fleet exists to protect the frontier, why was it never disclosed to this council?" "Because 11 years ago, my predecessor stood exactly where I am standing now," I said, "and proposed a joint defense fleet, funded and crewed by every species in this chamber, answerable to the full council. It was voted down 9-6. The stated reason was fear that humanity would gain too much influence over a shared fleet. I let that settle before I continued. So we built alone," I said, "because the threat on the rim did not disappear just because the vote did." Councillor Ivy Marsh crossed her arms. "That is a convenient story," she said. "How do we know this is truth, and not an excuse for a hidden agenda?" "Because I am giving you the coordinates right now," I said, and I placed a small data core on the podium. "Every shipyard, every fleet position, every reserve count. Send your own inspectors. Today, I will not stop you." The room fell into stunned silence. Nobody expected transparency in the middle of an accusation. Councillor Vren finally spoke again, quieter this time. "Why would you hand over your entire military position without a single condition?" "Because hiding it convinces you we are dangerous," I said. "Showing you convinces you we are exactly what we claim to be. A species that remembers what it costs to be unprepared and refuses to repeat that mistake." Selin studied me for a long moment, her eyes calm despite the tension in the room. "Ambassador Hart," she said, "tell this council plainly, is this fleet meant for conquest?" "No," I said, without hesitation. "It has never launched a single offensive strike against any member species. Every action it has taken in 11 years has been defensive, and every one of those actions is logged in the data core in front of you." Councillor Ivy Marsh finally sat back down, though her arms stayed crossed. "Assume for a moment we believe you," she said. "What happens now?" Now this council can choose, I said. It can spend the next year arguing about parity limits and inspection rights, while the frontier stays quiet and unprotected, or it can finally accept the offer humanity made 11 years ago and build something bigger than any single species could manage alone. A murmur rolled through the chamber, but this time, it did not sound like outrage, it sounded like consideration. Counselor Vren studied the data core on the podium for a long moment before speaking again. And if this council refuses again, he said, what does humanity do with 500,000 dreadnoughts sitting on a border none of us can see? We keep watching, I said. Because someone has to, and right now, we are the only ones willing to pay that price, without asking anyone else to share the risk with us. The chamber stayed silent for a long moment, and for the first time since I had walked through those doors, nobody was shouting. Selen rose one final time, her voice carrying easily through the stillness. I propose a formal review of the Joint Defense Fleet motion from 11 years ago, she said. This time, with full transparency from every species in this chamber, not only from humanity. A ripple of agreement moved through several of the delegations, though Councillor Ivy Marsh still looked unconvinced, and Councillor Vren said nothing at all, simply staring at the data core as if it might answer questions the room could not. I am willing to open every shipyard on that list to council inspection within the week, I said. No conditions, no delays. Verify everything I have told you, and then decide what kind of council you want to be going forward. Councillor Vren finally looked up at me, and something in his expression had shifted from anger into something closer to caution. Very well, Ambassador Hart, he said. This council will reconvene once the inspections are complete. Until then, humanity's fleet status remains unchanged, and no punitive action will be taken. That is all I ask, I said. I gathered the data core from the podium and stepped down from the platform, and behind me the chamber slowly broke into quieter conversation, delegates leaning toward each other instead of shouting across the room. As I walked toward the exit, Selen caught up beside me, matching my pace. You took a real risk in there, she said, handing over your entire fleet position without any guarantee they would believe you. The alternative was letting them imagine worse things than the truth, I said. Fear grows fastest in the dark. I would rather stand in the light and let them see exactly what we built and why. She studied me for a moment, then gave a small nod. Perhaps this council has spent too many years assuming the worst about anyone stronger than itself, she said. Perhaps, I said. Or perhaps it just needed someone willing to prove otherwise instead of only asking to be trusted. We reached the doors together, and as they slid open, the noise of the wider station spilled in around us, distant and ordinary, completely unaware of what had almost happened in that room. I stepped through, already thinking about the message I would need to send home. 11 years of secrecy had ended in a single session, not with force and not with threats, but with a data core and a decision to stop hiding. Whatever happened next, whether the council accepted the offer or spent another decade arguing about it, one thing had changed for good. Humanity was no longer the quiet, unknown giant behind the wall. We had stepped into the light on our own terms, and there was no going back from that. And somewhere far out on that unseen frontier, 500,000 dreadnoughts continued their silent watch, waiting for a threat that might never return, or might already be closer than anyone in that chamber wanted to admit.